Since the founding of Israel, May 14, 1948, it has become harder and harder to determine who American politicians put first, Israel or America. This relationship is made all the more shocking in that Israel is of no obvious strategic value to the United States and has often behaved more as our enemy. U.S. relations with Arab nations of much greater strategic importance have been profoundly damaged by Israel. American support for Israel in the 1973 Yom Kippur War led to an Arab oil embargo, throwing the U.S. economy into chaos. Even when the embargo was lifted, the price of gas had doubled. Sales of large American cars dropped drastically, and small Japanese cars sold well. Unemployment rose. Detroit never fully recovered. The U.S. suffered what was called stagflation. That's high inflation, high unemployment, and slow economic growth all at once. Interest rates for a 30-year home mortgage rose from 7.5% in 1970 to 18.6% in 1980. Even earlier, in 1967, Israel actually attacked the American ship USS Liberty, killing 34 sailors and injuring 171 more. Efforts were made by the United States government to keep the attack secret. Most Americans are still unaware of it. It appears the goal was to sink the ship, blame it on Egypt, and get America into a war with Egypt. On September 11, 2001, 3 World Trade Center buildings came down in a manner unlike what would be expected from jet crashes. One was not even hit by a jet.
And this is steel that was, you remember the width of the windows in the World Trade Center, folks. I think you know, if you were ever up there, they were quite narrow. And in between was this heavy steel. I said, how could a plane, even a 767 or 747 or whatever it might have been, how could it possibly go through the steel? I happen to think that they had not only a plane, but they had bombs that exploded almost simultaneously, because I just can't imagine anything being able to go through that wall.
Coming out, we passed the lobby. There was no lobby. So I believe the bomb hit the lobby first, and a couple of seconds in the first plane hit.
I think a bomb went off in the lobby first, then a plane hit the building. But then another plane hit the other building. But when I was coming through the doors on the other side of the Trade Center, something, either they blew the lobby up or something, because it blew the glass out of the doors and knocked us all down.
You can't prove to me at all a Muslim had anything to do with my son's death. Bobby died walking into the towers from an explosion.
Before they collapsed by pre-planted explosives.
All of a sudden, we heard an explosion. It was a huge explosion that came from under my feet, meaning that it came from the sub-levels between B2 and B3. And then there was a huge explosion at the top of the building. You could hear the difference from the bottom and all the way through the top. The one from the top, which was actually seconds after, was heard very far away.
There were additional explosions that brought the buildings down.
Yeah, here's one of the guys who can tell you I'm okay, all right? Here, hold on. You want to call your mother or something?
Should have taken a couple of companies that they were leaving back to us. They were stuck in the tunnel. Busy doing.
Go against another one.
The third explosion, the whole lobby collapsed on us.
Was that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was. Then there was a third one, too, after that one.
But he said that there was another explosion which took place, and then an hour after the first hit here, with the first crash that took place, he said, there was another explosion that took place in one of the towers here. So obviously, according to his theory, he thinks that there were actually devices that were planted in the building.
We've heard reports of secondary explosions after the aircraft impacted, whether in fact there wasn't something else at the base of the towers that in fact were the coup de grace to bring them to the ground.
CNN is now reporting that there was a third explosion at the World Trade Center, probably an explosion from the ground that caused World Trade Center 1 to collapse on top of itself.
Israel used the tragedy to promote a worldwide war against Israel's neighbors.
The world will not be the same from today on. It's an attack against our whole civilization. I don't know who is responsible. I believe we will know in 12 hours. If it is a kind of bin Laden organization, and even if it's something else, I believe that this is the time to deploy a globally concerted effort led by the United States, the UK, Europe, and Russia against all sources of terror. Bin Laden sits in Afghanistan. We know where other terror thugs are living. And we should cooperate with
preemptively,
both preemptive and by diplomatic means, namely rogue states. There are 5 of them: Iran, Iraq, Libya, North Korea.
I went downstairs, I was leaving the Pentagon, and an officer from the Joint Staff called me into his office and said, I want you to know, he said, sir, we're going to attack Iraq. And I said, why? He said, we don't know. He said, I said, well, did they tie Saddam to 9/11? He said, no. He said, but I guess they don't know what to do about terrorism, and so they think, but they can attack states, and they want to look strong, and so I guess they think if they take down a state, it will intimidate the terrorists. And then I came back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later. I saw the same officer. I said, why haven't we attacked Iraq? We still going to attack Iraq? He said, oh, sir. He says, it's worse than that. He said, he pulled up a piece of paper off his desk. He said, I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office. It says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran.
In reality, the attack was a false flag. The real terrorists appeared to be Israel working with American Zionists in support of Israeli and neoconservative ambitions.
And this is one of the documents, a 61-page DEA document that I went over and over and over and connected Israeli Mossad bomb experts to an art group that were traveling around the United States and to an art group that gave themselves the name of Gelatin. There was a group called the Lower Manhattan Cultural Center that was renting the 91st floor or allowed to live on the 91st floor. These foreign art students, and some of them were connected to a group of traveling art students that were all over the country that the DEA found out about because they were going door to door to some of their agents' homes. Look behind the gentleman in the pink shirt. You're going to see 2 big bold numbers. It says BB18. Those are fuse holders. Now look at all 3 pictures and look at how many boxes of plastic fuse holders that can be used for remote control demolition. Those fuses, by the way, come from a company called Littel Fuse, Littel Fuse Company. They're located in Chicago. And some little voice said to me, take a look into this Littel Fuse Company, where all of those fuse holders behind those artists are. And now some of those artists are guaranteed Mossad bomb experts.
In Iraq, Saddam Hussein was overthrown and killed. In Libya, Muammar Gaddafi was overthrown and killed. After years of war with 600,000 deaths, Bashar al-Assad of Syria was recently overthrown. He fled to Russia. This left only Iran on Israel's war wish list. Donald Trump recently attacked Iran as requested by Israel. The long-term impact of this attack is unknown. In the short term, Israel will be demanding massive aid to help recover from damages done to Israel by Iran in response to Israel's preemptive strike on Iranian leaders. The overall impact of America's decades of war conducted for Israel is profound. Europe has been flooded with Arab refugees, even as the wars cost American taxpayers trillions of dollars and drastically raised America's national debt. Thousands of American soldiers died, along with hundreds of thousands of Arabs. One is left wondering why the United States goes to such extremes to put Israel first. It could be because the Israeli Mossad, working with people like Jeffrey Epstein, has gathered blackmail material on a lot of American politicians. But there is another important factor of profound significance. Many American Christians support Israel as if America's survival depended on it. They base this support on Scripture. Genesis 12:3 is a favorite verse. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Jesus himself cursed the leaders of Israel, calling them whited sepulchres, and of their father the devil. He warned them the temple would be destroyed. It was. Yes, he was hung on a cross for his comments. But one of his goals was to awaken the citizens of Israel to the fact they were being misled. God himself had Israel sent into captivity in Babylon. The idea that you bless Israel by condoning atrocities is illogical and not biblical. You bless Israel by encouraging it to live up to God's call. The favorite verse, calling for support of Israel, ends with, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Why is Israel not being held accountable for this part of the same sentence? You do not curse your child by encouraging good behavior and denouncing bad behavior. You actually bless your child by doing so. If you wish to bless Israel, encourage it to be a blessing to the entire world.